So I have a question. I may have missed this, but what are some of the things that Nike specifically is doing? You talked about how they're willing to risk their brand and do things, but I didn't get examples of what they're doing other than Adam's example of the shoe, the brothers.
That's actually one excellent example of what they're doing. Another example of something they're doing that they started up, I believe it was about 3 years ago now. They allowed you to hook into your iPod directly. So your shoe would connect to your iPod. It was actually really kind of cool. But your shoe would connect to your iPod, and you'd be able to share the playlist of whatever your music is that you're listening to as you're doing your exercise, your workout. Be able to share that online with other people. You can know what somebody's listening to as they hit their first or their second or their third mile. Things like that allow people to feel that sense of community, even though it's across the country. Like he was dealing with, oh, I know what my brother was listening to when he hit the third mile. Why am I not listening to that right now? You know, that makes me feel better. So with Nike, they did that. They did a few other things that generally surrounded entertainment and sports. They tried to stick with entertainment and sports because what are you doing when you're exercising? You're always listening or watching something in order to keep your mind focused. Not always, not everybody, but in general, you know, you watch the movies. I don't exercise, but I guarantee some of you guys do. You know,
from what I've read.
From what I've read. No, you know, in general, people are always doing something that is entertainment focused in some way, shape, or form. So Nike actually partnered up with a few different entertainment companies and said, hey, look, we want our brand to be associated with yours when people are exercising. And then online, you go online, and Apple isn't the only one they did this with. They did it with Sony. They did it with Universal Music. They did it with a lot of the music brands in general. And you can literally sit there and download a particular playlist, you know, of music of artists that may speak to you and may appeal to you. Or you could go to Madonna's website if you're a Madonna lover and say, what's Madonna listening to when she's doing her workout? You know, it sounds kind of hokey, but
I think,
they actually do put that stuff together.
I think what it is too is this idea of like they're preemptively propounding solutions like before it's mass market, or it's most people think of it, right? It's like the idea of like you're with your friend working out and you're like, wouldn't it be great if you can listen to your iPod on this? And they're already working on it. And that's an amazing solution. They're consistently working on thinking about every lifestyle area you're at and what would be cool. I know, like, I don't know if you know about, like, in New York, the private parties. There's a private party guy. Really, he's an amazing guy. If you know him, he is amazing. But all he does is throw private parties for Nike. You know, and they have these amazing different things. And you go to these events, and like a garage will open in New York, you know, and it's this crazy party, but there's only a couple hundred people. And you have to be on his text, or you have to know somehow. They'll do things. They did this several years ago. They threw, you know, they go, we're doing an exclusive run of 40 shoes. And you have to find them. They put clues, and they did this game around the city. And they were like, some were tied around, you know, the telephone lines. I mean, it was just all around the city. It was this huge scavenger hunt that people were going for. And it was just 40 shoes, pairs of shoes they put out there, where they're engaging the consumer unlike anyone. Right?
So I got this call the other night. One of my designers, he lives in Chicago. He's been in Los Angeles working for one of our sports clients. And this guy doesn't even drive. He's been living in New York for a while, doesn't have a license. And he tells me, I'm thinking of going up to Echo Park by Dodger Stadium. And I was like, why? What's going on down there? Is there a show going on? And he's like, no, but the tape capsule guy has planted something there. And I was like, what do you mean? And so there's this musician who makes these songs. He records them and he puts them on cassette tapes. He puts them in plastic capsules and he seals them. He buries them. And then he puts the geographic coordinates on his Twitter.
Wow.
And so the first person to find the song gets it, and it's on the cassette tape, and then the person is sort of obligated to digitize it, put it online, and the name of the song is the coordinates. Like,
That's
Do
great.
people actually try to find it?
every
Oh,
single
yeah.
one has been found.
Really?
Yeah. So basically, and he drops them off when he's in that particular city. I forget his name. He's from Chicago. You can email Mike at lovehasnologic.com to get his name. But yeah, that's some crazy marketing. And so this is a musician who's releasing songs by burying them in the ground.
Right, it's that ability too to realize there's different markets and they get the subculture. I mean, there are people that'll wait in line. If you go on Saturdays to Underground in Santa Monica, you know, especially like 3 or 4 years ago, you know, there'd be a line 50 deep at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning for people trying to pay $400 to get that pair of shoes. You know, that pair of Nikes, and that's an amazing subculture you formed.
But I think every brand actually has some person or some group of people that is that passionate about it. You know, it may just be one person, or it may be 5,000. I stood in line for the iPhones, every single console that's come out between 1990 and 2006. You know, I mean, there are passionate people out there for particular brands. And if you can find a way to directly market to those people in a social media context, then they will be your ambassadors at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They'll do what you need, what you may not be able to do yourself.
The one thing about the ambassadors is don't ever pay them in cash.
Yeah.
Don't ever offer to pay them in cash. You don't necessarily ever even have to pay them in product. You just need to make them be a part of the company, meaning let them give away the product. So let's say, you know, you're selling bags. Okay, cool. Find the ambassador and say, great, bag of the month. You give away a bag every month. Just tell us where to ship it. That kind of thing. Rather than, we're just going to give you 200 bags. Keep them. You know, that's.
Are you saying that it's the wrong incentive, or because for legal reasons?
No, actually, technically speaking, there's no legal challenge to it. So it's right now it's kosher with the FTC for the time being. So I don't anticipate a legal challenge with the Federal Trade Commission for 9 months, 10 months. Some does definitely need to be looked at again, probably January of next year. But the challenge is actually once someone's already evangelized for you for free, if you tend to pay them, they'll walk away. They'll say, "Why?" They feel dirty, kind of. So, like for example, imagine you stayed at the Hilton Financial District just around the corner. You write a 5-star review on Yelp. You had a wonderful time. It's the best weekend away you've had in months. Then they call you up and they're like, "So, can we give you a room every month to tell people about us?" You'd be like, you know, avoid the ick factor.
I mean, they already love you. You don't have to pay them to love you anymore. Just let them feel special. Let them feel as if they're, you know, part of the crowd, part of the in crowd, and let them feel as if they have some whatever minuscule power over, you know, helping you guys grow.
Question?
So I don't, again, I sort of don't understand some of this, but something like Yelp, is that, like, do you guys consider that beneficial, or is that like is that something that can potentially hinder your business?
Depends on your level of service.
And is Yelp something that, like, is that a big thing of people using that?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yelp is probably the most important. So, I mean, in terms of people like going to a store and reading your store, that's where people go to find out information at this point in San Francisco.
Yeah, for retail, basically for local business, I'd say west of the Mississippi, it's the #1 destination content property.
Even New York.
Really? Yeah, select markets on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But basically, you know, Yelp it's a medium-sized network. It's, you know, 10, 20, 50, maybe 25 million users, whereas, you know, Facebook's sitting at 175, Twitter's about, you know, 10, 11, 12 million, depending on whether Oprah's on or not.
Is there something else besides Yelp that's comparable to Yelp? Does Yelp have competition?
I'd say
they have competition, but they don't necessarily have competition that is as influential as them.
And then there's, you know, Amazon is much and rated at all, and the opinions are very product-centric, whereas Yelp is actually local business-centric. There's also a lot of jokes on Yelp. I don't know if you read it. There's some very funny stuff on Yelp. Like, if you go on Yelp and you type in, like, Jews or black people or something,
Yeah.
there's reviews.
Yeah, there are reviews on that.
It's very, very funny.
Hilarious.
Or sometimes, like, if you're looking in New York and you type in the F train, and there's, like, 347 reviews on the F train. Like,
Yeah.
that's just kind of cool. So if you're ever really bored, Yelp's sort of cheap entertainment.
So much of this is so intuitive too. It's like when you're looking for something on Yelp and you see a bad review that's just clearly by an insane person, it doesn't necessarily affect the way that you think about the store. I mean, it's like social media is really just about how do you interact with things, and you can kind of tell.
There's accountability on Yelp too. So like when you see a user gives the Waffle House in Manteca a bad review, you're like, oh, I know that they have the best waffles in the Central Valley. Why would he say that? You click on his review and you notice he also gave the Motel 6 a bad review, and then he gave the gas station across the street a bad review. Like maybe that guy was just having a bad day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and to get, I mean, we've heard the good and the bads of some great examples of it. Like, how does a company or a small brand get started in social media?
I'd start with the communication factor. More so than anything else, you're trying to build your brand around the people who actually end up